I've heard great things about the book. You Gotta Have Balls by Brandon Steiner, who's the mastermind behind Steiner Sports, and now joining us on Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP, is Brandon Steiner. Brandon, it's your buddy Zach Gelb here. How are you?
How are you today? Oh, you're in Philly, huh? Now,
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Boy, it's been a tough year for you guys there, huh?
Well, I don't root for any of their sport teams, but it has been a tough year. Andrew Boeheim, he's been a disaster through the trade that he came over. He's never been able to get on the court. The Phillies didn't make the playoffs, and the Eagles, they're picking in the top 5 of the NFL draft. So it's not been a good year for the Philadelphia sport teams, Brandon.
I'm happy about that, being that, we have that whole New York-Philly confrontation. But, Philly's always had great teams, but I guess right now you got to count on Villanova.
Yeah, that's true. And Temple as well, LaSalle, all those teams, the Big Five is trying to make a run in the NCAA tournament. So it's been interesting to watch college basketball. I cover the Temple team on a regular basis. Got a chance to talk to Khalif Wyatt yesterday over at Media Day as the Temple Owls get set to take on NC State on Friday. And I know that you've seen Temple basketball this year because when I was broadcasting from MSG, they beat your Syracuse Orangemen.
They did beat the Orange, and I tell you, that coach is a very, very good coach. He's a very well-coached team, and that's a tough team. They're going to be tough to beat, and it wouldn't shock me to see them beat North Carolina State and maybe even get out of that bracket, and get out of that round and go to the next round. They're that good. If they stay within the game that the coach sets up to play, they could be a very, very difficult team. They beat Syracuse. Not only they beat them, but they beat them when they were hot and they were rolling.
Brandon Steiner joins us on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. And you know my uncle Gary Jerome very well. The two of you were fraternity brothers over at Syracuse. And over my spring break, I had a chance to have dinner with Gary, Uncle Gary. And when you talk to Gary at dinner, it's like words of wisdom time. He starts preaching to you and everything. And we were talking about you, and I said to my uncle, I go, it's funny, we're actually having Brandon on the show next week. And he goes, you have to ask Brandon about his mother. He said your mother is one of the most diligent people he's ever met and meant so much to your success. Can you just talk a little bit more about what your mom has meant to your career?
It's funny, first of all, I did a blog today at
I saw it.
BrandonSteiner.com, about how I got into Syracuse. It was all my mother. But you got to have balls. There was a book dedicated to my mother. It was my mother's favorite line. And my mother's favorite thing was, if there's anybody out there listening that's in college, which I assume they are, it's about value proposition, Zach. Value proposition, everything. And that's one of the big things that my mother always taught me, which was you got to differentiate yourself, and you got to focus not on what you could do. You got to differentiate yourself in hearing and listening to what the person you're trying to convince needs. And that's the most important thing in value proposition, is that most people are so worried about what they're doing and them and what they're selling, and not worrying enough about the person they're selling it to, and really listening and thinking about their needs. And that's the key thing that my mother always taught me and that she was really good at. I had a paper route when I was young, and I came home one day and I said, Mom, this lady doesn't, I've been knocking on doors, and this one woman told me she wouldn't buy the newspaper from me because then she'd have to tip me because the paper's the same amount whether you bought it from me or whether you got it from the daily, from the local newsstand. And she says, you got to differentiate yourself. So I went back, I told her, it's like a 65-year-old woman. I said, you're really old. I mean, I'm concerned. You're older. I mean, you're going to be out in the snow, blizzard, rain, heat wave. If I brought you milk on Wednesdays and Sundays, and I brought you hot bagels on Sunday morning, would you get the paper delivered for me then? She says, you would do that for me? I said, yeah. I mean, you're a little older, and I'd be concerned that you'd be out in bad weather and not be able to get the paper. Not only did she sign up with me, but I went from 29 dailies to 189 dailies a day. And quadrupled my thing, and it's value proposition, which is understanding, there's an older woman, she's a little older, and understanding where possibly there was a need, where there was something missing. That's what I try to do with my blog every day is, what are people missing? That's why I call it what else. Like, what are people missing? What else do they need? And how can I fill that gap?
I agree with you 110%, and I always tell people, because I have high school kids come up to me, and I'm only one year removed from high school, and they go, well, how do you get all these big names? And I go, you got to be gregarious. You have to be willing to go to events that aren't the most desirable and making connections with people that aren't the biggest head-time coaches or the biggest basketball players, because eventually they will be in those kinds of situations. And you've seen Steiner Sports grow over the years, and you guys have had a plethora of athletes do signings. Who was the best athlete, though, that you've dealt with over your time as in charge of Steiner Sports?
Well, it's really unfair to answer that question because there's been so many. And that's the good news, is that there are a lot more than there are bad. Certainly Mark Messier, the Ranger captain at the beginning of my career, Mickey Mantle, those are two guys that really were great. They really went out of their way to help us build and grow our business. And they always took an interest in what we were doing. Certainly, you look at a Peyton Manning and an Eli Manning and a Jeter, those guys are phenomenal in helping us develop and continue to grow. We're 25 years now trying to help people, maintain these moments and these dreams you have in sports, and we're trying to capture them and package them up and sell them and be able to, put those in people's rooms and, create these experiential stuff that people love. So I would say out of all time, I'm a big Mark Messier fan. I think he was a guy that was an unbelievable leader, great player, won on a high level, and was tenacious. And I think when you think about success, the common denominator with all those guys, they were tenacious. They just never stopped. They were the dog at the bottom of your, the bottom of your pants, just they just wouldn't let go. And I think that that's the way they went about their business. And they cared about people. They cared about other people other than themselves. And I think when you mention Derek Jeter and those kind of names, that's what makes them really, really special.
When I think Brandon Steiner, one word that comes to mind is the word resilient. And you overcame a lot of adversity. And I've read your blog on a daily basis and how your mom said F him to the guidance counselor that told you would never get to Syracuse University. I'm a little bit into your book, You Gotta Have Balls. And it's absolutely incredible. And everyone told you no in life. And people said you couldn't make it. And I know you were a restaurant manager and you may have never thought that you would be this big-time millionaire running a sports company. But had you overcome that adversity in life?
I think a lot of it just comes from really just wanting to be excellent at what you do. When I was in the restaurant business, I had a great run, mainly because I had a really good work ethic and I wanted to be excellent and brilliant at what I did. I wasn't trying to be everything. I was just trying to be really, really good. And I was, I was flexible. I think people want to have a high level of success, but then they don't want to be flexible. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. They're not willing to do this. They don't really want to learn. Flexibility is such a key ingredient in success. And I think you got to really have this desire. For me, it was always I wanted to be successful at business more than I wanted to be a successful business person. And I think it's just important. Like I just had that really desire to be really good at what I was doing. And there were no barriers or boundaries around that, frankly. I didn't understand a clock or a check-in or check-out time. Learning was 24/7, and you can't make much money and learn much while you're sleeping. So I kept sleep to a minimum, and all the other distractions to a minimum, and I just went after. And that's the key ingredient what I'm about to say is I just went after the learning part of it. I think people underestimate, no matter what level of success you're at, whether you're in college and you're getting A's, or you've made a lot of money, whatever it is, you can't underestimate the ability of getting mentors, getting people around you that can teach you and get you better. Because if you don't have that, you really, I assume your next trip is down to Florida to sit, at near one of those hotels or one of those old age homes and hang out. Because you're not on a path where something really great's going to happen. And that's the tough part. Most people don't have that flexibility really and the desire to learn. They want to, I tell doctors all the time, like, listen, you're a good doctor, but to be a great doctor, you want to help people get better more than you want to become a doctor. And it's like, they always look at me kind of, wide-eyed, but it's true. You got to just enjoy the fact that, you can make people feel better. And that's more than just being a doctor. And if you don't have that full enjoyment, you're never going to get to the highest level, because if your full enjoyment gets out of making people feel better, you're going to go to the end of the earth to find every possible solution in your area of medicine to find out how to get people that are sick better. And that's how you become a great doctor.
Zach Gelb here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station, talking to Brandon Steiner of Steiner Sports. The book is called You Gotta Have Balls. And Brandon, one of the things that impresses me the most about you is you constantly give back to charity. You give back to your university in Syracuse. And the story with Christian Lopez, he catches Derek Jeter's 3,000 home run ball, and then you helped him out financially. Why does Brandon Steiner decide to give back to people?
I think it's fun. I think you get a tremendous amount of joy. sharing, whether it be the knowledge or the influence that you have to give to other people. You have to get joy as much seeing other people be successful as you do in getting success yourself. And I think for me, it's even more joy when I see that I'm able to give somebody something or help somebody with something, and I see them kind of kick it, and all of a sudden get to another level. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And you gotta find joy in that. And I think you gotta try, to make a little part of your day a little better for someone else. And I try to start my day off by trying to do two things for two people that don't expect me to do that for them, and help make their day a little better, or do something nice for them that's unexpected. And that's how I start my day off. And my truth is, and I talk about these truths in the book, is if you do good and you put out good, you'll get back good. It's a simple concept, but it's amazing how often we forget to do it. Although I think most people do it, I don't think that people realize how impactful it is, and that they should do it more.
You've been involved in the sports industry for many years, and March is one of the best
25.
times. Yeah,
25. Oh, let's take a 22nd here. 25 years. I didn't think I was going to be around for 25 minutes. 25-year run. I mean, not a lot of brands stick around for 25 years. And this is 1 year, just hitting my 25th, that I'm getting a little sentimental. But, to have Steiner Sports around for 25 years, I'm extremely grateful. And I don't blink at that, because I know not a lot of companies get to be around 25 years.
And you know that one of the best times during the sports year is March Madness, and your Syracuse Orangemen, they're in the tournament. How do you like their chances?
I don't love them. I guess I think they're going to get out of this round. I think they're going to beat Montana. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm making some plans to go to D.C. and see them play Indiana. I think this is the year. This reminds me, Zach, I know you're a little young, but back in the mid-'80s when the Big East was dominating the NCAA, and then one year we had 3 teams in the Final Four, I think this is a year where 3 teams from the Big Ten will dominate this tournament. They're the only league to me that has not only the coaching, it's a league that plays defense, and it's a league that has some stars. And I think that I'd be shocked if in the Final Four there's not 2 Big Ten teams, if not 3.
I have Ohio State in my Final Four, just to mention. A lot of people are picking Tom Izzo's squad in Michigan State, so you're definitely right. That could be a possibility. But let's go to your head coach, Jim Boeheim. I saw you did an interview with him a few days ago, and Jim is an incredible person, and he's done a great job over at Syracuse University, and it was nice to see him get that championship with Carmelo Anthony back in 2003. But how many more years do you think Boeheim has left in him? You know him better than most.
I did the same thing. I did a podcast with him last week on my blog, and I looked at him. I said, Jim, how are you working against time? Like, you look better than you did 10 years ago at 68. And so I feel like he can keep going. I feel like he's got some shelf life left. He's smart. The thing about Coach Boeheim that I love and I've always enjoyed is he keeps it very simple. He understands what's important. He knows what it takes to be successful and to get those wins. To be competitive, he doesn't get crazy with a million different things. He focuses on getting quality players, getting talented players. He focuses on making sure he has great coaches. And anybody who runs a business knows that talent acquisition and making sure you have the people to manage the talent that you get are probably the 2 most ingredients for running a business. And there's not a lot of rules over at the Boeheim. We am over at the Mellon Center, not a lot of rules. Not a lot of over practices, not long practices. No walkthroughs on game days. Doesn't watch a lot of film. I mean, he does the opposite of what every great coach has done. Meanwhile, he's got 912 or 14 wins. Insane. So I've got a lot of respect for Jim and for what he's done and what he continues to do. My guess is, looking at him and sitting with him last week in his office, I'm like, wow, I don't see the end near.
I have an abundance of sports memorabilia in my room, and final one here before we let Brandon Steiner run. And one of them is actually from your company. It's a 2004 montage of the Patriots winning the Super Bowl, and then a few were gifts. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, a boxing poster from their Spectrum fight, Tom Brady autographed football, and the one that I collected when I was sitting there as a kid at Chase Stadium, I got Mike Piazza's and Al Leiter's autograph. And 25 years, you mentioned that you see some of the best athletes walk through your doors and your studios, and you've seen some of the best products been sold on your website, SteinerSports.com. When you look at sports memorabilia, though, what have been some of the best pieces or the most successful pieces that your company has sold?
Well, first of all, thank you for those purchases. I'm always grateful, and I appreciate that you're able to enjoy some of the things that we're making here at Steiner.
Well, you actually gave me one of them as a gift, so I would have to thank you for the Patriot one.
No problem. My pleasure. We've secured over 25 million autographs at Steiner Sports, and we're proud of that. I mean, that's probably the most ever in the history of what we're doing. And we're always looking for, the next thing that our customers and fans want, so they can, again, share those moments. We've had so many great moments. I think the favorite thing that I've done in all my autograph securing and collecting is when we bring the teams together to celebrate. So after a team wins a championship, it could be the Yankees or even the Phillies when they won their championship, or bringing back a Sixer team with Julius Erving, or bringing back an 86 Giant team 25 years after that. I love bringing the guys together and hearing the stories of success and why that team was successful. I'm always trying to develop a more successful team here at Steiner Sports, and when I get those teams together and I hear the stories, the motivation, it's always inspiring to me, and that's my favorite thing to collect. So if you ask me for my favorite collectibles, it's multi-signed items that have a theme or a team involved.
Brandon, this was a whole lot of fun. Thanks so much for coming on today, and let's do it again real soon. I appreciate it, my friend.
You're doing a great job on that show, man. I got to tell you, I'm all over your Facebook, too. Love your comments, and I'm a Facebook guy. And I love your comments, and you're on your game, man. You're going to be a superstar one day. You're already there. But one day when you get out of Philly and you're doing that national broadcast, hopefully I'll be able to tune into you.
Thanks, Brandon. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Okay, be well. Keep it going.